Olá, começa agora o Campo Diplomático, um espaço onde o agronegócio, as relações internacionais e o comércio exterior interagem. Meu nome é Gabriel Estrela e hoje nós vamos falar sobre educação no campo, educação na área rural. A África do Sul é um país de 63 milhões de pessoas, quase 27% dessa população tem 15 anos ou menos. E o país enfrenta um desafio para aprimorar a educação básica dessa população com tecnologia, com parceria e com cooperação. Aí entram os BRICS, países do sul global que estão em Brasília em uma diversa quantidade de reuniões para aprimorar suas relações em diversas áreas. Para falar sobre educação no país da África do Sul e também os desafios que eles enfrentam e onde nós podemos cooperar, eu recebo o senhor Hubert Mathanzima Mweli, que é diretor-geral de educação básica da África do Sul. Mr. Mweli, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. Thank you, Lucanio, as well, your advisor, communications advisor, for making this happen. It's a pleasure to have you here with this unique opportunity to have someone from your country representing education to speak on our program.
Thank you very much, Gabriela, for the opportunity. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to start out talking about the macro side of things. South Africa has been one of the founding members of BRICS since 2009. It's a cooperation that has been expanding as we've seen the addition of many other members, around 11 members now, and as well as official partners to the group. In Brasilia, we're having as part of the presidency of BRICS, Brazil is hosting a series of meetings, including educational ministers' meetings, which you are here for. My understanding is that there have been a lot of advancements in making this cooperation improve. I'd like to hear you about the importance of BRICS and South Africa's agenda at BRICS, especially in education, please.
Well, we hosted in 2023 as the co-chair of BRICS, and we are very excited to have observed that some of the things that we started in South Africa when we hosted culminated into 4 deliverables during the 12th meeting of the BRICS ministers. The first one is the artificial intelligence in basic education. And the meetings looked at the benefits of artificial intelligence, but also looked at the harm effects or the adverse effects of the artificial intelligence, such as cyberbullying, but also looked at what are the advantages of using artificial intelligence. The second area was around assessment at higher education institutions and recognition of qualifications across the BRICS countries' borders. And then the third one was about the alliance of TVET in the BRICS countries. And what is significant about looking at the alliance in the BRICS cooperation countries was that for the first time, secondary education formed part of the discussion. And a declaration was even signed in this regard. And then the fourth area was about consolidation of the expansion of universities, a network of universities. The target is that each member country should be able to put on the network 22 universities, and many of them have advanced. A few of them still need to meet the target of 22. So all in all, this meeting success has been overwhelming. There's never been such a success in any of the BRICS meetings as the one that we have observed yesterday.
Yes, I understand that the climate in the negotiation room, the way that all of the delegations are very open in order to negotiate, to understand and find common ground, is very interesting at this moment in time. I would say that the global South is looking at itself ever more so. And that may be because of series of geopolitical reasons that reaffirm the necessity of our integration and the improvement of how that can represent for our nations, right? Do you believe that with these integrations, let's say in the next 5 to 10 years, our education systems can be more integrated and that will give an expense, not an expense, but it will expand on our economies, will expand on our relations between societies as people that can understand each other more?
Well, apart from the agreement which was reached in the meetings, there were also bilaterals which were led to memorandum of understanding which will be signed in future. Our own minister met with the Minister of Education in Brazil. They had very interesting discussions around issues of teacher development, issues of early childhood development and foundations for learning, issues of fighting hunger, and in particular, the feeding scheme. South Africa and Brazil constitute what is called countries of food alliance, which are quite big. I mean, in South Africa, we feed out of 13.6 million learners in the system. We feed in 9.7 million, which is quite a significant number. And Brazil also is doing exceptionally well when it comes to fighting, hunger, the issue of food security, and so on. So we're looking at collaboration, not only at BRICS level, but even at country level. When the Minister of Education from Brazil would be coming over in October, because we are hosting the presidency of G20, the memorandum of understanding will be signed between our two ministers. And among others, these things that I've mentioned are definitely going to feature in that memorandum of understanding. So the future looks bright, not only for member countries of BRICS, but individual countries as they get into cooperation agreements, such as the one between South Africa and Brazil.
Mm-hmm. How can the school feeding programs improve with this cooperation? Brazil has a large history of having the school feeding programs throughout the nation. We've cooperated with nations along the continent, the American continent, and the Brazilian government is very inclined into improving its cooperation with African nations such as South Africa. Has there been advances in the structuring of the school feeding program? Do you believe that we can advance in certain areas in order to improve how we feed our youth in our respective nations?
Well, our minister has prioritized the reconfiguration of our national school nutrition program. And one of the things that we are looking at is that provision must be much more sustainable. We're looking at school gardens, where you can get the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, and communities involved, but also getting communities within the proximity of the school, working together with schools to establish sustainable school gardens, where you get the community also producing food for itself, but also at school level, the feeding being driven from school gardens. Because just getting supplies of food from outside without any relevance to something that happens at school as part of education, it doesn't lead to sustainable food security in our communities and what we bequeath even to our children in future to be able to look after themselves and feed themselves. And we're quite fascinated with the fact that, I mean, the two institutions that I refer to are quite exemplary in terms of producing bread, a lot of supplies that you need for school feeding, which we can learn a lot from Brazil, which would want to see happening in our own country, where schools themselves are able to produce bread, but at the same time, learners are able to learn and follow careers as part of contributing to food security.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The challenges of food security are also met in the rural areas of our respective nations, even Brazil, which is a big food exporter, a country that in 40 years became a food importer to a net exporter. What are the challenges that you see in terms of, let's say, food nutrition, school nutrition and students' food security in the rural sector in South Africa?
Well, the opportunities are immense. We're talking about it when we're coming here, that there are some communities that are producing food products or items themselves. But what we want to see established is the link between communities and our schools. School gardens that are sustained by what is happening outside there, but also getting government moving as a collective in making food security a priority. The Department of Education or Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Rural Development acting together in tackling the issue of food security. And rural development, we're talking about rural areas. And once we win there, because our country is predominantly rural, once we get it right in the rural areas, I think the future will even look much more brighter for South Africa. And those are opportunities that we have. I don't see them as challenges, but as opportunities. And we interact quite a lot with our rural areas because that's where most of our schools are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Well, we're going to go to a short break, and coming back, we're going to expand on these opportunities. Para você que vem nos acompanhando, fique por aí, que no segundo bloco nós vamos falar mais sobre inteligência artificial e as oportunidades para avançar na segurança alimentar no meio rural. Isso inclui também instituições de educação. Fique por aí que o Campo Diplomático volta já. Olá, o Campo Diplomático está de volta, hoje conversando com o senhor Hubert Mweli, que é diretor-geral de educação básica da África do Sul. Mr. Mweli, thank you again for this opportunity. On the first block, we were speaking about the four main objectives and four main, I would say, conquests of the educational ministers meeting during the BRICS here. One of them was artificial intelligence, a great challenge for our society. In the educational sector, I believe that we have the challenge of protecting our youth from the malices of the cyber network, from having disinformation as well exposed to them. What do you see as the next steps after this conquest, this understanding between nations that we need to have a common agenda in order to advance in dealing with AI in the educational sector?
Well, the first thing is that our nations must be comfortable with the fact that the ministers have extensively examined the role of artificial intelligence and have taken safeguards to protect our youth against the ills of artificial intelligence. And many of them were unanimous in saying artificial intelligence will never replace our good teachers, because as the name goes, it is artificial intelligence and not human intelligence. And artificial intelligence comes from human intelligence, and therefore is a means to enhance the work that we are doing, to make it better, to make it even good, and to increase productivity levels, whether it's in teaching or whether it's in industry. That's the role of artificial intelligence. It's going to make us teach better and even reach out to more learners quicker and even much more impactful to our young people. It's going to improve our assessment methods. It is also going to, help to change our business processes in the classroom, in our offices, and generate amazing data that we can use to plan, to establish trends, and be able to determine impact well in advance and to monitor the system much better. And that's the value of the artificial intelligence. Of course, the flip side of it are about the ills that we have already talked about, cyberbullying being one of them. And countries are unanimous that we need to take precautionary measures to make sure that our young people are also protected there. And many of our young people are techno-savvy. They are already playing in the space of artificial intelligence, and they like artificial intelligence. It resonates with the things that they do, play-based learning and so on. That's how they get introduced and get used and tend to like it quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How is South Africa looking at regulation of AI and as well as the implementation of AI not only in basic education, but looking at the technical side of education, implementing AI in different areas of your economy, as well as improving the future for this youth that needs to understand that there is technology that is useful, but there is also a limit. We have to have also teaching, as you said, with human intelligence, not only with technological resources. How is your country looking at regulation and the implementation of this technology in the work life?
Well, it's led by the Department of Communication, but different departments have developed guidelines, have developed policies and regulations to regulate their own environments. But the master plan of coordinating and regulating artificial intelligence is led by the Department of Communication. So the rest of the other ministries are working with the Department of Communication. Of course, it works with the Department of State Security and many others for issues of national and international security, which we are part of. Because that's very important as we interact with other countries, that we make sure that we've got enough safeguards for our young people, for our business people who will be trading with their partners from South Africa to other countries.
Fantastic. Fantastic. One of the other points was the TVET Cooperation Alliance Charter, which means Technical and Vocational Education and Training. What's the importance of this technology in education in South Africa, especially when we look at the rural population?
Well, it's one of the milestones of BRICS, as I've said, 4 of them. Signing the charter was a major development in BRICS because BRICS countries can now work together in areas of vocational education, which provides skills that are relevant now and skills that are needed in the future. We need more plumbers, we need more electricians, we also need more practitioners in agriculture for food security, as we have indicated. And there are various careers that are available as practitioners in agriculture, from just being a farmer to specialize in different areas where careers are available in agriculture, and to attract more young people in the agricultural space, and to make, agriculture cool. And that is happening in our country. Agriculture used to be seen as a career for senior people or elderly people. If you want to retire, you go into agriculture. But we have started attracting more and more young people into that space. And the TCA, the TVET Alliance Corporation, is going to enhance even the attraction from our young people to come in numbers to get into areas that ordinarily were not areas that they would prefer.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the department's strategy in order to advance with agricultural schools, specialized agricultural schools in South Africa?
Well, out of 8,000 of our high schools, which are not very many compared to Brazil, 6,000 of them offer agricultural science, which is a significant number.
Very much.
And out of 6,000 of them, between 2,000 and 3,000 are agricultural focused schools, which means in those schools, apart from the languages and mathematics and so on, the rest of the other subjects are related to agriculture. It's agricultural science, agricultural technology, it's applied agriculture. The learners there just focus on agriculture. And those schools are doing exceptionally well. In fact, the schools operate like business entities. I mean, they sell cheese, they sell all kinds of agricultural products. And they are also sustainable because they have hostel facilities. They are able to provide food to learners within the school. They don't have to buy food items from outside, but they are produced within those institutions. And they are able to supply these institutions to our retail stores in the neighborhood and elsewhere. And we're looking forward to grow even more of such schools because our country is predominantly rural, and therefore want to have many of them in our rural areas to contribute to food security and sustain food production in our communities.
I understand that during your visit to Brazil, you visited mainly two institutions, educational institutions, SENAI and also the Federal Institute of Brasilia, which is a technical school which provides also, besides university education, the type of education that will also guarantee those students technical jobs in their respective fields as soon as they leave the institution. In comparison to your rural schools, your rural agricultural schools, what do you think we can share in terms of school institutional structure and as well as the models of education between our nations from what you've learned here and what is present in South Africa?
Well, the two institutions that we visited, what impressed us is that you have a combination of a school, a college, and a university. In South Africa, schools operate separate, and colleges also operate separate, and then the university also is separated from the two. And we call it the Kumbo experience that we came across in Brazil. Kumbo in South Africa is a combination of a couple of things. So maybe it's something that we could explore, particularly in our rural areas where people have to move for distances to get the next TVET college and the next university. But in the majority of instances, you'd find schools spread across most of our communities to look at the possibility of even elevating some of our schools, at least to TVET colleges over time, then consider even universities. Because what impressed us about the two institutions that we visited, we were saying amongst ourselves, it's not very expensive and sophisticated infrastructure. Very basic infrastructure, but very dynamic in the way it provides for schooling, for college, and for university. And what is important are the expertise that you get there. The professors for universities, but also professors for the college and the good teachers for the school. And the three working together. And that impressed us a lot. In terms of our agricultural schools, many of them would even focus on things like farming, especially those that are in the rural areas. Yes. The focus is on cattle farming, crop production, and so on. But what also impressed us about the other school is that it focuses mainly on tourism, the issues of hospitality. In our schools, you'll get that offered as a subject and so on. But in the institution that we visited, we came across, the whole institution focusing on hospitality, preparing young people on how they can get into the hospitality industry. Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Mr. Hubert Mweli, Director General of Basic Education in South Africa, thank you very much for this opportunity and for sharing our cooperation opportunities with Brazil and the other BRICS countries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, brother.
Eu conversei com o senhor Hubert Mweli, que é diretor-geral de educação básica da África do Sul, sobre a cooperação e as oportunidades no setor de educação entre os nossos países, principalmente olhando para as instituições e a estrutura da educação rural na África do Sul. Assista este programa outra vez, entre outros, no nosso canal YouTube, @AgroMais TV. Eu fico por aqui e até breve.